Design is not a gift you are born with. You can train it and practice it and get better. I created content every single day for around a year. The effect of consistency is very powerful.
Hello and welcome back to Indie Bites, the podcast where I bring you stories of fellow indie hackers in 15 minutes or less. Today I'm joined by Jim Raptis, an indie hacker from Greece who's working full-time on his portfolio of projects, including BrandBird and Magic Pattern, which are both doing $1,500 MRR. If you've seen those cool screenshots on Twitter with the nice drop shadow in the gradient background, those are made with BrandBird. In this episode we talk about why Jim quit working at his funded startup to pursue indie hacking, how he learned how to design as an engineer, and what he's done to launch 2 revenue-generating SaaS products. Now, if a friend tells you to give a product a go, usually you'll try it out, or if you see someone on Twitter recommend a tool to use, you'll likely sign up. And that is the power of social proof at play, and it can be super effective on your landing page, which is why I'm happy to recommend Testimonial to you, who are kindly sponsoring this episode of Indie Bites. Testimonial allows you to easily collect testimonials from your customers and automatically embeds them on your landing page. You might have seen a wall of love with a bunch of supportive tweets and videos on various products that you've signed up for. And that wall is created using Damon Chen's product, Testimonial. All you have to do is sign up, paste those nice things people have said about you, and we'll create a beautiful set of testimonials that you can easily embed on your site or share online. Head to testimonial.to or hit the link in the show notes to create your Twitter wall of love for free. Or if you want to sign up for a pay plan, get a whopping 25% off for 12 months with the code IndieBites at checkout. Let's get into the episode. Jim, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thanks a lot for having me. I'm fine. Indie Bites is actually the only podcast I listen.
That means a lot that you listen to it. We've been speaking on Twitter a while. I've been impressed with what you launched with Magic Pattern and also BrandBird and the other things that you've launched. But let's take a step back to before you started indie hacking, before you started creating these products. I'm interested in what you were doing then. I know you mentioned you started a funded startup.
I was running a startup with 3 other guys. We met in university and started the project as a side university project, then evolved it into a startup. We raised funds and we ran the product for around 2 years. We actually built a product team with 5 guys and then COVID hit us. Our burn rate was running, but we couldn't raise more funds. So we decided to put the startup on hold, and it was the reason I went full-time into indie hacking.
So why going from sort of a funded startup, something which I'm guessing you had growth ambitions for, did you not decide to try and pivot to move towards something that was more remote friendly or start another project with funding? Why is it you chose to go down the indie hacking route?
To be honest, the COVID crisis was just an excuse. I was not feeling fulfilled. It's totally fine, and many people love it, and it's a perfect fit for them. But starting to realize, because at that time I started some side projects and found the joy of building something on your own, compared to running a product that you don't have the full ownership, and it made me so much happier and enjoying all these little things like your first dollar. It's an amazing feeling.
That's very common with people who have gone from VC to indie hacking. They weren't feeling fulfilled with their whatever product they were working on, and they wanted ownership. And when we were speaking the other day, you said you're a programmer at heart, but all of your projects surrounding design, well, most of them are surrounding design, and a lot of the tips you put on Twitter are all focused on being a designer. So how did you get into that, and why did you decide to focus on that instead of the engineering side of things?
It's a very funny story, because when I was in university on my first year, I was struggling financially, so I wanted to find a job to support my expenses. So I Googled about how to make money online, found Upwork, which is a freelancing marketplace, and looked at what kind of services can I provide. I had very little experience on Photoshop, so I said, why not? I found a gig there. I was designing cartoons for a couple of months. And then eventually I found UI and UX design. I fell in love with the whole process and everything. So I get better and better every day. When I was a teenager, I thought I was the least creative person in the world. So I want to emphasize that design is not a gift you are born with. You can train it and practice it and get better.
I think that's a really good point. And when I was younger, I never thought of myself as a creative person. But then I realised that there's lots of different areas you can be creative that isn't just design and illustration. And the other thing is that you can learn the creative skills. Yes, some people have more of a gift or they can pick it up more quickly. But I think a lot of these skills, if you practice at it every day, you can get good.
Exactly. Being a founder is a great help because you do so much stuff. You're a generalist. You design, build websites, or do your financials, and you learn how to do multiple things. You understand that it's not too complex to learn new skills.
So let's talk about Magic Pattern, your first revenue generating indie product. Launched it last August. Where did that idea come from for you? And can you just explain to me what Magic Pattern is?
So I was watching a Shopify conference and I saw their intro. It was full of abstract shapes around the screen. I was amazed by the graphics, so the engineer inside me woke up and I wanted to know if this kind of graphics, it's possible to generate them with code. Then I created a very simple MVP to just validate that it's possible to create these graphics, and I was amazed with the results. So then it evolved into a product. And Magic Pattern right now is a full design suite. It includes several small tools, mainly for designers or people who don't know how to design but want to have some graphics for their design assets.
And when you launched it, did you have a big audience you were launching it to? Where did you go about getting those first users for it?
I was using Twitter more actively for a couple of months, but I didn't have any huge audience. I think I was around 300 followers. A few months earlier, I had launched some products on Product Hunt, 3 products. So at the time I was ready to launch, I posted on Twitter, gained some feedback, and fixed all of the early bugs. And then made a bigger launch on Product Hunt late August, which was the moment I realized that this can be a product, because I earned some money from lifetime deals back then.
And my favorite tool of yours is BrandBird. I mentioned earlier how much I love it. What sparked the idea for you to start BrandBird?
So BrandBird is a tool when you add a screenshot or an image, and it automatically transformed it into a beautiful tweet or a graphic for your website or anywhere. So I was designing my design tips, or for every single tweet I tried to include an image. So I was spending around 10 or 15 minutes in Figma trying to polish every post to the official Twitter guidelines. Then I asked myself, if I, a professional designer, spend so much time on a single graphic, how people who don't have any experience of using tools like Figma or any other tool, so how do these people create the graphics? And that was a question I wanted to answer by building a small tool that is gonna anyway help me create graphics more efficiently. So it's gonna save me a ton of time, and at the same time I could maybe create a separate product from this MVP.
Yeah, not only for people that don't use Figma or can't use design tools, even those that can, that want to save time, it is so frictionless. Because a lot of us indies are sharing screenshots all the time and getting frustrated with them being cropped. It's just so easy to quickly whip open BrandBird, Command V, and it's already got my template saved, exactly how I like my images, with the angle of the 3D, with the shadow how I like, with the background how I like, even the scaling of the images. And then I can just copy that straight into Twitter. So I think it's got so much potential. And you're about 500 MRR with this now, right?
Yeah.
What sort of things are you doing to grow to make sure that every person on Twitter has BrandBird?
I wanted to apply the product-led technique on growth for BrandBird. Have a great UX, so people who first-timers on your product will get the value instantly. Then in time, these people will share their graphics on Twitter with a watermark. so other people will see how the user created the graphic. Or if they remove the watermark, I've seen that many people ask in the comments that these graphics are great, so how did you create them? And the creator then says BrandBird. So for this early stage, I was only using word of mouth and the watermark thing to grow BrandBird until now. And from now on, I want to create some SEO content and boost the organic traffic to my product.
How are you splitting your time between multiple projects, and why are you doing multiple projects and building up this portfolio instead of just working on one thing and focusing on it?
There are many reasons, because in the beginning I was only working on Magic Pattern, and at some point I felt so confused that I didn't want to work on the project. So I was getting bored and frustrated. So I started to split my time between multiple projects to enjoy more what I do, because I love building. I don't particularly love marketing or any. And then I realized that when you have a product, you can very easily create a new one. You are going to reuse 80% of your code and just change the interface. So it was very easy creating more and more products. Also, when you have multiple products, if Magic Pattern dies in a year from now because these graphics that are generated became outdated, I wouldn't care too much, because I'll have another SaaS which is ready to grow.
Without a doubt. And you've grown your Twitter audience quite a lot. You started taking it seriously last summer when you launched Magic Pattern. You said you launched it to just 300 followers. You're now at 9,000, Jim. Now, that's pretty good growth in the last year. What have you been doing to grow your Twitter that well?
I did a couple of things. First thing was last summer when I decided to go full into Twitter, double down all my efforts, and I said to myself that I need to post a valuable tweet every day. And this boosted my confidence and consistency, and then eventually it became a habit to me. So I created content every single day for around a year. And the effect of consistency is very powerful on every aspect in life. My second biggest lesson from this Twitter growth was that you need to pick a specific topic and create content for this. I saw the biggest growth when I focused on design tips, and I was posting regularly tips about design. So people still have me in their minds as a designer, and they follow me because they want to become better in design.
Smart tips. And I'm wondering, we've spoken a lot about things going well, like the growth of Magic Pattern and BrandBird and launching these things. But have there been any points over the last couple of years where you've been indie hacking where it's not gone so well? You've had challenges, you felt low, and you've wanted to stop?
Yeah, of course. And basically, it's a very tough mental game being a founder, because you essentially work more than being an employee. You have more risks, and you need to think more of what to do, because if you take a risk and it doesn't succeed, you might have a serious problem with your financials or anything. And another huge topic is burnout. I very regularly feel like I have no creativity or no joy to continue. But recently I understood that when you don't feel okay, you don't have a desire to work, the best you can do is to take a few days off, completely log off everything, and just have a good time with real people in your life, or doing something that you love apart from anything techie.
I think that's a great tip, and a lot of us put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be productive. We see all the productivity porn online as well, seeing people hitting their MRR goals on Twitter, and we just want to keep working and working. But sometimes when you're not feeling okay, it is fine to stop. I end every episode on 3 recommendations: a book, a podcast, and an indie hacker or entrepreneur.
I totally recommend for anyone indie hacking to read Traction. The only podcast I listen is the Flow State podcast. It's a podcast about focus music. It's using a Pomodoro technique, and for 20 minutes you listen for music to keep you focused. A person I admire, I'll go with Peter Levels, because he was the one that taught me about indie hiking with his book. So it's a lesson for me.
All right, man. Good stuff. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Indie Bites. All links for everything discussed will be in the show notes as always. If you want the easiest way to collect testimonials for your brand, then check out today's sponsor, Testimonial. And if you're interested in hearing more about my journey building an indie business, I have a Bootstrapper ride-along show called No More Mondays. All links are in those show notes. See you next week.